Hey everybody, welcome, and thank you for listening to this episode of Marriage Therapy Radio. My name is Zach Brittle. I'm here today with part 2 of Ira and Andrea. They've been kind enough to share their story on the podcast and let me wander around and try and be of help, sort of in a semi-therapeutic way. Got a lot of very cool feedback from some of you who listened to the first episode. In this one, we go a little deeper on what's actually going on for them. What does it look like for them when they get into some trouble relationally, and what are the moves that each of them are making that make it hard for them to feel connected. So again, thanks to those guys for sharing their story. Thanks to you for listening and for participating in this little experiment. I hope there are some aha moments and key takeaways for you as you continue to listen, because this is a very cool conversation. Stick around. Since we last talked, which was, I don't know, was it a week ago, 10 days ago or so?
10 days, I think.
As far as you know, do you feel better, worse, or the same about your relationship?
Can I start?
Sure.
I mean, it was a pretty lively conversation last time, and I think it really kind of, opened up, I think, some good, honest communication.
Yeah. I crashed after it, but it also had to do with hormones. Long story. But I would say I kind of like took a nosedive and then came out the other end, and I'm feeling better about things now.
Yeah, I feel
What
like
is that?
Yeah, go ahead.
What is what?
Better. Like when you say better, like how do you measure it? When when you're thinking about your like finances, you go, oh, I have more money in the bank than I did a year ago. That's better. But like if you think about, I'm feeling better than I did 10 days ago, what is that?
Maybe less stuck.
Okay.
Less.
What is that?
Well, again, to give you context, I'm like a 58-year-old menopausal woman who just started HRT and missed taking progesterone, and I'm on testosterone and estrogen. So estrogen and testosterone without progesterone manifested as high anxiety. And so I was like wondering why I was feeling so very anxious. And I kind of broke down crying on the day after. I think we met on a Sunday, and on Monday I was just like a wreck, feeling like I was not losing my mind, but like kind of spiraling into an anxious depression, which I did in my early 30s. And it's, if you've ever been there, it's just terrifying. And then things I reached out to some friends about hormones, and they're like, oh, you're taking your progesterone, right? And I was like, oh, actually, like I've been kind of missing it at night. And they're like, oh, no. So I got that. But the like anxiety and the talking, again, we don't have a problem talking to each other, but there's certain things, as you could probably tell, that we get stuck on. And so that feels like the tire in the mud that just goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And I think we were able to, I don't know, just the fact of doing this with you and just saying like what our real fears are. Like, I'm afraid of losing him. I've had a failed marriage. A lot of that failed marriage, the narrative was that I had changed so much since we first were together and he longed for the old me. And that just sounds like that's very triggering and terrifying for me. So I feel very threatened when Ira longs for the good old days, pre-kids, having sex 6 days a week, and or actually 6 days on the first day of our marriage, 6 times on the first day of our marriage. So it just was really triggering. But sometimes like saying, like, I'm actually scared of losing you. Saying what the real fear is, and that, like, I don't know that I could survive that, helps to be just like, all right, I see you.
And I think, I think in your first marriage, he longed for the old days before you had a spiritual awakening. He was longing for you to revert to an unhealthier state.
True.
Right. So which is a different thing than my longing for you to move into a healthier state. He was kind of wishing you would go back to your unhealthy state,
which he thought was a healthier state. But,
right.
I think also like the unspoken fear for me is that I felt kind of really stuck in certain of my health situations and feeling like scared that this is the rest of my life. And saying that, like, I'm scared that I'm never going to get another good night's sleep. I'm scared that I am going to be on edge all the time. Like, I'm scared that I'm going to get fat and like become unappealing, unattractive. Like, so I don't know if any of that, I can't really package it up very neatly, but
yeah.
And again, none of it's new. Like, we have been through this cycle before.
Yeah.
But I think, what feels good is to, not that it feels good, but it was good to speak truth, to be honest, to have the hard conversation. Because I think we have had it in the past, but I feel like it's just kind of like an alarm under a pillow more than like dealing with it. And so I think having that conversation, and then, Andrea did have a really rough day that next day. She was like on the verge of a nervous breakdown. Like,
I have had a nervous breakdown, and I don't think that was.
That's what you told me. You said, I feel like I'm about ready to have a nervous breakdown.
I felt so fragile and so anxious.
Mm-hmm. And we laid on the couch, and I just held her, and she kind of cried.
I just ugly cried. And then had my therapist and ugly cried for an hour.
Yeah.
So, but I also think I'm like releasing a lot of cortisol that's been stored up over the years. So.
There's something very real about the body's part in all this. Like, if you're not, even, I don't want to say to Ira's point, but like, to take care of your body is a spiritual exercise. It is a way that you take care of your relationships, to make sure that you are properly medicated, that you are exercising, that you're not too dependent on substances of this sort or that sort. Like, it's part of the jam when it comes to being healthy in relationships. So cool. It's cool that you're aware of it. And take your meds, like take your meds in the appropriate way at the appropriate time so that you can show up authentically and without some of the extra baggage that comes with, just not having your head on straight.
It seems like, and I don't want to speak for you, but part of what we're dealing with is, can we talk about your recent autism?
Sure. Yeah.
So, Andrea's recently found out that she's on the autistic spectrum, which there's a masking element that, we're intentionally letting go of those masks, which is scary, but really healthy. And also, but I think a big part of it, the autism thing is executive function. And I think Andrea's, a lot of this whole challenge has been executive function around. I think you've really wanted to do certain things, but it's hard to make yourself do it, even though there's that desire to that. Yes, that makes sense. Of course I want to take care of myself. Of course I want to take my meds. Of course I want to.
Yeah. I guess the urgency of caring for other people, e.g. my kids and the dog and the cat, and sometimes this guy, is just easier than taking care of myself. Because it's more urgent and pressing.
Yeah.
But I know, but it's like a scary realization that I'm not getting younger. Like, I'm a strong person, and I think for most of my life I've been really hale and hearty, and I'm scared of that fragility of getting older.
Yeah. I get that. And, this isn't rocket science, but I'm I'm convinced that the way you take care of those people is that you take care of yourself, and that's a hard thing to wrap your head around sometimes, but it is like as I get older, I'm clearer and clearer about that.
Absolutely.
It's that foundation for anything in life, right? Not only taking care of, for taking care of other people, but for anything in life, we have to have energy. We have to have a groundedness. We have to not be stuck in bed. We have to be able to do things,
You said something last time, Ira, that I want to follow up on, and there's a little bit of my own story in here too, which is, I used to have legitimate contempt for people who would champion this, like take care of yourself first, because I was raised as a good Christian boy. That's the phrase you used last time, good Christian boy. I heard my dad say, like, you got to take care of yourself. And I thought he was a narcissist, and he was, but like the idea that like somehow you had to look out for number one seemed really antithetical to me and actually like sinful, and the older I get, the more I'm like, hey, no, like that's how you serve other people, is that you show up in your best brain, your best self. How do you reconcile some of that through your own story? Like, tell me about, I'm just curious about how you use that phrase and then how you have come to this philosophy. Like, what is that story for you?
Yeah, well, I think, I can start on a more theoretical level. Like, there's that difference between being selfish, right? And choosing the bigger piece of ice cream, a cake, or like, stealing from other people, or, not being honest. Those kind of selfishness, of course, is bad for you, right? So that kind of self-focus when it's over other people, of course, that's not on any moral structure is not good to do. But I think taking care of yourself, I think, from a Christian perspective, I think of, the great commandment, love your neighbor as yourself. I love the idea that my neighbor is actually part of myself, right? Actually, when I love Andrea, when I love my kids, when I love other people, because we are one, because we are interconnected, because we're the same, the same being on a larger level, it is actually self-love too. But I mean, for me, when I'm a yoga, and I love doing yoga. I've had my yoga teacher training. For me, it's worship. Like, to me, being in my body, it's so good for my head. Like when I'm stressed, if I can exercise, I just feel so much more grounded and better in it. And it feels like I'm connecting to God and the earth and to all things in a way. So it doesn't feel selfish to me. It actually feels transcendent to me. It feels like I'm connecting to earth and I'm connecting to the sky. I'm connecting to others. Like there's this, it definitely doesn't feel selfish to be in my body.
Yeah.
I think that idea is probably rooted in more of a substance dualist kind of dualism perspective of spirit good, body bad, mentality that has corrupted Western civilization and certainly the church for 1,000 years, that is directly called heretical, right?
Yeah.
Can I add something, which is, I think that if you have had, I think I mentioned that I was sexually abused when I was 5 years old. I was raped by a 13-year-old neighbor kid twice.
Jeez. Yeah, I'm so sorry.
And when that...
Brutal.
And I carry that with me, and I've done a lot of work around it, but I still think that my body is kind of a battleground. I think when you have such an early sense, and my family was very disembodied or like
very... Who was your family? Who's your family?
Who's my family?
Meaning mom and dad?
Origin, mom and dad and brother.
Okay. And mom and dad are
they're
are they
deceased. No, they're
still in your
deceased.
life? They're not in your life. Okay. And your brother, where's he?
He's in New York.
And what was your job like in your family? Like, sorry, just I don't mean to be like hyper clinical, but like just to understand the landscape. Like in your family, what was you said disembodied, but what was your job in your family?
To be the hysterical one, to be the one who was too sensitive, to be the one who was hyper emotional, to feel all the pain that was coursing through my family that was never acknowledged.
That's a good.
I was the feeler.
Yeah, which wasn't welcomed or wasn't celebrated or rewarded.
No.
Yeah,
absolutely not.
Yeah, that's a drag.
So, the body means something else. And naturally, I'm an incredibly physical person. Like I remember as a kid, I was hyper athletic. I joyed in being in my body. I think that changed. Or it just became being in my body sexually as I became a teenager and acted out sexually. So I'm still offloading a lot of junk. Somatically.
Yeah.
I always feel better when I exercise. I have no problem with exercise. For some reason, it's almost like and it's not like I don't exercise. I did Pilates this week. I swam in the ocean this week. Long distance swam. I'm going to Pilates. So I do. But consistency and intensity has been an issue. And executive function, for sure.
And it would help. OCD. If you have OCD like me, you can just be like, I'm going to do 10,000 steps a day, and you don't miss it, or else you sacrifice other things like sanity.
That kind of sounds good to me.
Ira, who's your family? Sorry. Your family is mom and dad.
We need a diagram?
Yes, we definitely need a whiteboard for this.
What do they call that thing? It's a
genogram.
Is it a genogram? Is that the word?
I need a graph. I have two dads. My biological dad, who I didn't know until I was 26. And then I grew up in just a single mom, and then her new boyfriend, who was my first sister's dad. And then
Is he your second dad?
No,
we'll get there.
When I was 5.5, my mom's current boyfriend, who is after my sister's dad, it gets complicated here, brought a friend back from the bar who was drunk, who ended up being my adopted dad.
Charlie.
Brought him in. And so
that's four total dads, right? There's bio dad, there's sister's dad, there's current boyfriend, and then there's drunk adopted
Charlie.
dad who is not related or dating any currently people.
Right.
Ended up dating and marrying his mom.
So that's when they met. And I actually met him when he came in that night, and I got up out of bed, and we totally connected and decorated the house.
You're 5.5.
I'm 5.5. Yeah.
Okay.
And then in the morning, mom met him. So the dad and I have this special connection. There's we've always had this.
Is Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie. So he's my adopted dad.
Yeah.
Which I didn't meet until I was 5.
Yeah. Okay. Andrea, when were you raped?
When I was 5.
5. 5 is the big year for each of you.
Yeah, both of us 5. Yeah. Of course, it was a really good thing in my life.
Yeah. Well, for different reasons, but it's the seminal year, the pivotal year.
Life, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Really incredibly healing in my life to get a dad, because I didn't really have a dad until I was around 5. I had Sonora's dad, who I called dad, and then when my parents were breaking up, I called him dad, and he's like, Ira, don't call me dad. I'm not your dad, which was true, but it was like, oh, wow, I really don't have a dad.
Is he still in your life?
No,
Okay.
no. But yeah, then Charlie came on the scene. And, so my parents are hippies, if you haven't picked that up. And like we lived in a van in the woods and for several years, tents and moving all around the West Coast and Colorado, and then eventually bought a school bus and converted a school bus into a home. And then I was, Charlie and my mom and dad had 3 more kids. So I have, I'm the oldest of 5 that I grew up with. And then, we were homeschooled in the woods in Washington State. Went from like hippiness to conservative Christian hippies. You can imagine. And then I reconnected with my birth dad when I was 26. And then he has 2 daughters that I connected with him too. So I have
You now have 3 sisters?
One of 7 siblings. One of 7 kids.
Wow. Okay.
And then
did you have a job? What would you say your job was in your family?
And then my mom passed away 2018. So now it's 2 dads. Job of my family. I was the golden child, firstborn, good Christian boy, like great in school, intelligent, can learn things easily, hard worker. I was also really into like punk music and skateboarding, but it wasn't like, rejection of.
It was the altar boys, right? It wasn't the.
It was like Christian.
It wasn't
punk
like
yeah. So I really wanted to listen to the, all the. Yeah, we weren't allowed because we were conservative Christian hippies.
Yeah.
Wasn't allowed to listen to. Had to be on a Christian record label and all that bullshit. But yeah, so my job was that kind of hardworking, responsible, good Christian boy. That was the role of my family.
Yeah. I'm fascinated by just the serendipity. That's the wrong word. I'm fascinated by the 5-year-olds. These 2 little 5-year-olds.
I never thought about that before.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got one whose world kind of falls apart and gets broken at the same time that another's world kind of gets healed and fixed. And then those people grow up. And I have some curiosity about how much those 2 5-year-olds are in conversation with each other, like even now. That is just a place of inquiry for me and for you guys, I think. What's that?
What in the psychological perspective, what stage of development is 5 years old? Like what is being developed at that point?
I have theories about this, but I can't put them in like academia. I think like, I sort of think 4th grade is the beginning of consciousness. Like if 4th grade is the beginning of people kind of going, oh yeah, this is what my childhood was like. Usually if I ask somebody about their childhood, they'll say, oh yeah, this is what it was like. And they're usually about 4th grade. And then I'll say, what was it like being, one more time?
That's interesting.
Yeah. Is that true for you?
I remember very far back.
Yeah, of course.
What it was like to be 2.
Yeah.
I have very clear memories of everything. I
think you're a little bit of an outlier, of course, because of specific capital T trauma for sure. But
I have a lot of memories of my early childhood too. And, and they're very embodied, that early childhood. It's simple, and then it's true. Yeah. Right. Maybe around 4th grade or so is when maybe that being able to see yourself in 3rd person.
Yeah. And start to have language and go, this is who I am. This is what I think.
Yeah.
I think if you locate yourself during recess, like during the 4th grade, that there's probably a version of whatever that is that you're still doing right now. And then people make sense of their relationships, usually around 8th grade. It's like middle school, when they look at their parents and they go, oh, this is what relationships are like. This is what relationships mean. So, 5 is, I would say, sort of pre-consciousness, but it's where we form, or we're continuing to form, real attachment stories and attachment themes. They of course predate 5 for sure, but like, you're forming critical how to exist on the planet realities inside of your 5-year-old body, that then you start to collect language around in a few years language. And then you start to collect context around a few years later. And I think a lot of times we don't intentionally course correct. Like, we perfect these skills, for survival and safety when we're young. And then we transition into relationships, adult relationships. And the things that we're really good at are protection skills. They're not intimacy skills. And so if you don't learn intimacy skills, like thoughtfully and intentionally, then sure, life sneaks up on you, and you marry the wrong person, or you marry for the wrong reason, or you find out you thought you wanted X and you wanted Y, or you don't know how to handle change, right? Spiritual awakening or bodily awakening. Like we didn't learn how to do that when we were young. We were just trying to figure out how to stay safe and sane, So I don't know. I don't know if there's meat there necessarily for the two of you to think about, but there is something about those formative 5-year-old stories that is still present here, in the story that you're telling yourselves about your relationship, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. How do you heal that 5-year-old? How do you?
Well, so that's the miracle question, isn't it? Like that's the big thing. I think that there's a whole sort of domain in and around therapy called reparenting. And reparenting acknowledges that our parents didn't get it right. Our parents were flawed and broken and didn't know how to honor feelings, didn't know how to, honor personality, didn't know how to, they were just trying to do what they knew how to do, usually unskilled, usually unintentional. So who parents you? Well, in theory, it's the version of you that's finally figured it out. The mature, thoughtful, functional, wise, sober version of you now. So, how do you heal that? There's lots of different mechanisms. Sometimes I'll encourage clients literally to imagine being 5. Imagine 5-year-old you, wherever you are in your space, like your bedroom, the woods, whatever you're doing. And then in walks you.
Current you?
Current
us. 58-year-old you, here comes you. And little 5-year-old you is like, what? Hold on. What? Mom? And you're like, no. Hold on. This is weird, super weird, but I'm you. Like, this is I'm you in the future. And literally, like, have that conversation. Have it in writing. Have it in your brain. Like, what do you have to offer that kid that she or he needs?
I have everything to offer that kid.
Right. But she didn't get it at 5.
No.
But reparenting is giving it to her now so that we can reframe 5 to 58 in a way that brings something like healing, something like perspective, something like maturity, right? Where you go, hey, listen, it works out. This is fucked up. What you're dealing with right now is a big deal, and you're going to pay the price for a while because your parents never figured out how to let you feel. But let me tell you what you're really good at. Let me tell you where you thrive. Let me tell you what this builds in you. Let me tell you, you meet a guy, you get to parent people in the future. You get to do it differently. Like, this is reparenting, and reparenting is really powerful if you do it in a I don't want to say a stewarded way, but at least in a way that brings maturity into some of these really formative spaces, particularly if your parents didn't. And Andrea, your parents didn't.
They did not.
You know?
And I don't think your parents did either in some ways.
You know, my mom, I think, really loved me. And then my dad really did when he came on the picture. But when we hit teenage years, they didn't know how to parent teenage years.
Mhm.
They're actually really great with little kids.
Mhm.
You know, at teenage, they didn't know how to equip us for the future.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I'm interested in the thing that I started with, which is this idea that, how are you feeling? You know, better, worse, or the same? A little bit better. Andrew, you said I feel a little bit less stuck. I mean, part of what is so troubling for people is that they just feel stuck, and they're stuck because they don't have, they're not thinking creatively. Well, not always, but they're not thinking creatively, or they don't have the opportunity to think creatively about how to come at this thing called life from different angles with different perspectives and different parts of yourself. And I don't know if that's what you're describing right now, but the way that you kind of break free from the inherited story is you poke holes in it, you chip away at it, you respond to it. There's sort of this famous notion about trauma that doesn't belong exclusively to Gabor Mate, but he popularizes this notion that trauma isn't what happens to you, it's what happens inside of you because of what happens to you. And if that doesn't get the care that it needs, sure, you're going to walk around feeling off balance and disconnected and disembodied, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny, the thinking about 5-year-old Andrea and walking in and talking to her, and telling her that I have what can take care of her. Like, it just makes so much sense in a way around this idea that I haven't been able to take care of myself adequately because I've been taking care of everyone else. But maybe I can befriend that 5-year-old. I mean, I know
100%.
that intellectually, but
Yeah.
to spend time rather than to berate her, rather than to expect so much and not understand why she can't do certain
Of
things.
course. Of course.
You know?
You would never do that to your actual 5-year-old.
No.
Son, daughter. You wouldn't even think of it. Why would you do it to her?
That's the $1 million question.
Right. I mean, I think this is the idea of reparenting, is going back and saying, we have something to offer you. You're going to be okay. You know? And that's like necessary, actually.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this question. Just aware of the value of our time, and what we're talking about is, if we talk again in 10 days, it's going to be sooner, but let's just say it's 10 days because that's the thing. If we talk again in 10 days and I ask you the same question, how are you doing? Better, worse, or the same? About the relationship. And you said better. You said, well, I feel better about the relationship. Not all better. All better is probably not going to happen, but like better than today. What happens for you in the next 10 days? Because this is where it is. It's not in the future. It's in the next 10 days. You know, better isn't out there in 2030, or it's in your house, in your space, in your time that you're in right now. What does better practically, actually, functionally look like for the two of you in the next 10 days?
Can I speak to that first?
Sure.
100%.
I think for me, it is taking the time to spend time with myself that's not distracted by, you know, I've had a very hard time in recent years spending time delving into myself because it's hard. And I think because I'm scared. And I don't necessarily like that. It's easier for me to externalize things and take care of other people, and to watch Netflix and chill, or, but I think to take the kind of time that he takes with himself, which I have in recent years felt resentful of. Like, I have felt like you're so inflexible about, like, this is what you do. And I'm like, but can't you make an exception? And that's built up resentment in me, which I'm confessing to you that I do have this resentment built up against it. But I do see how important it is and how good it is for you to do that. And I would love to reach the point where I could do that for myself without, like, just spending that time, rather than, like, calling somebody on the phone to, like, check in to see how they're doing. Like, check in with myself.
Sure.
I just know if I don't take that time in the morning, I won't do it, because then I get caught up in my day, and I just won't do it. And so I just know to take care of myself, I have to do it in the morning, because then I get on with the day and there's a million things all around. And so that's just for me.
So I think actually, like, if I take care of myself, I'm going to feel better about the relationship.
Okay.
Because I'm going to be better resourced. I'm just going to be better resourced. And
okay. And that includes 58-year-old you and 5-year-old you.
Well, I need to let that 5-year-old in. She's an exile.
Yeah, which means she's lonely and scared. And
I've done a lot of, like, internal family systems work in the past.
Yeah.
And I know she's an exile that has a lot of protectors around her.
Definitely.
I've never really been able to access her.
Well, that's why we invented an imaginary time machine.
I'm so glad for that invention. Whoever invented that should get billions of dollars.
Yeah. All right. What about you? If you come on next week and I say, "Hey, how you feeling? Better, worse, or the same?" and you say better, what's changing for you in the next 10 days or so?
It's keeping my heart out there and doing the hard work of being honest. I think my tendency is just to absorb things and to kind of be the victim, Christian boy, be the victim. And, I think for me, it's just continuing to be honest that no, everything isn't perfect, like everything isn't fine, like, to be, but to simultaneously, be very loving and fully embracing and fully connective, how to do those two things using two arms, honesty and love. I think telling the truth and love, I think, is with my heart and not, put my heart out there, even if it can get hurt.
Yeah. Well, you've unintentionally reinforced a theory that I'm having, that I'm forming and feeling more and more committed to, which is that I think I've figured out the secret to happy marriage. I think I know what it is. It's a 2-part. Yeah, I'm going to give it to you right now.
Secret.
Yeah, it's 2 parts, and number 1 is you got to get over yourself. Like, people who are more committed to themselves than to the relationship are not going to have healthy relationships. And that's different than people who are more committed to themselves than to the other. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who are more committed to their pain, their trauma, their preferences, their style of relating, their hopes, their dreams, than they are to the relationship, are going to have a hard time. And so I think you're right. in the sense of I think you will feel better in the relationship if you spend the next 10 days or lifetime really concentrating on like taking care of yourself so that you can access the part of you that is ready to do a relationship with that person, with the person next to you on the couch. You know, that's thing one. Thing two is do more of the things that your partner likes and fewer of the things that your partner doesn't like.
Mm-hmm.
Which is hard to do if you're not taking care of thing one. Like thing one is going to keep you from doing thing two. But thing two is about appreciating who you're next to, learning as much as you can about what they like, doing more of that, learning as much as you can about what they don't like and doing less of that. And then, you know, I think you feel better 10 days later, 1 year later, 10 years later. But that's a constant process that you have to kind of recycle. You know, I got to get over myself. And
thing one again, can you just clearly say that? Because I heard two things when you said that.
Yeah.
One was concentrate more on the relationship than yourself, but then I heard really take care of yourself so that you can concentrate on the relationship.
No, thing one is get over yourself. Like get over the, maybe the easier thing or the better thing to say is to get over the self-ish self, the self, you know, that you were describing a little bit earlier, like the one who wants more cake.
English language does not help us in this self conversation, right?
No, it's true. But the part that wants more cake, right?
The ego, the id, because I feel like our true self is this deep self is the real self that is connected to God and connected to all things.
And maybe it's take care of yourself. Maybe it's parent yourself. Maybe it's be your wisest self, be your functional self, be your sober self. Maybe that's thing one, you know, so that you can, with integrity and intention and consistency, do thing two. More that your partner likes and fewer things that your partner doesn't like.
So that's one is connect to your real self by getting over your kind of your selfish kind of ego and short-sighted desires and connect to your real self, your full self.
It's really
your childish self, your adolescent self, your adaptive self, basically.
It's about adult sobriety.
Yeah,
what does that mean?
Totally.
Well, I come from a long line of alcoholics, and even though I would say that I've never been an alcoholic per se, I've always relied on alcohol to soften the boundaries. And I've, for the most part, given up alcohol this past year. I'll dip in and have a drink here and there, but and it's very different. But then it also showed me how I was using other things like Netflix, like watching, even things that are innocuous can be indulging in a non-sober lifestyle.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Sobriety about oneself is a hard-edged thing, but I think it's also what needs to happen in order to get over yourself. If that's what
totally.
you say,
But not just always be serious, right?
Yeah.
Like, like how do you connect with reality?
You miss fun, Andrea, don't you? You miss like tipsy girl, make out with you in the corner, girl.
Yeah, I do.
I'll make out with you in the corner.
That's that question is how do you not medicate and distract yourself from reality, but then and actually, really engage in the substance of what's real, while at the same time having a childlike love of life and of the present moment and being free, because definitely there's a sobriety that is really boring and right? And then there's a sobriety that has this childlike energy that's just incredibly life-giving. Like, what's the difference between those two sobrieties?
Yeah. Well, I kind of love that we've ended up here. I call it relational recovery. It is just the category that I think about a lot. I'm in actual recovery. I'm sober 5 years now. So, and I found that giving up alcohol was pretty easy. My last drink was on the 13th of November. By Thanksgiving, I was done thinking about alcohol. But recovery from anger and resentment and from relational trauma was a lot harder, and it was the real work. And I feel sober. I feel sober from alcohol, but I feel sober from anger and resentment, and I feel clear-headed, and I feel fun, and I feel interesting, and I feel curious, and I think you can get there, and that is a worthy endeavor, and one that I think we can talk more about. So,
what do I feel like the but is? Our time is up.
Well, because that is the reality. Okay, that was part 2 with Ira and Andrea. Thanks again for listening, and don't hesitate to shoot me a note if you have a question or some feedback for me or for them. I'm sure we'd love to hear it. They are really grateful for the opportunity to provide value to folks who are listening, and they are keen for encouragement and recently said if there's also pieces of feedback that might be a little tougher to hear, they're open to it. So if you want to shoot me a note at info@marriagetherapyradio.com, I'll be sure to pass it along. For now, I'll thank you for the time and attention you're putting into making your relationship better today than it was yesterday.